It being a presidential election year, it seemed really wrong to get all these cartoonists together and ignore the campaign. So we have two panels this afternoon offering the cartoon take on campaign 2012. And starting out, we're going to have the view from the left. So Jen, Clay, Dan, you there? Here they come. Okay. Oh, did Mike take it?
Oh, it's
right there. Okay, you guys got the clicker there?
We do.
Okay. There's an empty chair.
Yeah.
Insert Clint Eastwood joke here.
Barack Obama will be joining us.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, Jen Sorensen, closest to me. Jen Sorensen's cartoons have appeared in The Village Voice, The Daily Kos, Ms. Magazine, The Progressive, The Los Angeles Times, and on NPR.org. She is the first place winner in this year's Association of Alternative News Weekly Awards and the 2012 Herblock Prize finalist. Sitting on the far side, the scruffy-looking guy, Clay Bennett. Clay Bennett has been a cartoonist for as long as he can remember, and he's been opinionated for as long as anyone else can remember. With an aptitude in both art and obnoxiousness, editorial cartooning was an obvious career path for Bennett, a path that would eventually travel through 5 states in 30 years, earn him almost every honor in the profession, including the Pulitzer Prize, the Sigma Delta Chi Award, the Robert F. Kennedy Journalism Award, 2 Overseas Press Club Awards, and 3 National Headliner Awards. He's the editorial cartoonist for the Chattanooga Times Free Press. Bennett smokes and drinks and cusses out loud, so be forewarned. Tom Tomorrow is the pen name used by Dan Perkins, whose nationally syndicated political cartoon, This Modern World, appears online each week at the Daily Kos and Truth Out, and in alternative papers around the country. His cartoons and illustrations have been featured in the New York Times, U.S. News World Report, The New Yorker, The American Prospect, The Nation, Spin, Esquire, and on MSNBC's Countdown with Keith Olbermann. He has received numerous awards, including the first place R.F. Kennedy Journalism Award for cartooning in 1998 and again in 2003. He is the author of 10 cartoon compilations and 1 book for children. And in 2009, he collaborated with the band Pearl Jam to create the album for the artwork for their album Backspacer. So, lefties, it's all yours.
I'm allowed the podium? Okay.
We like to hide behind podiums, us lefties.
We are introverts.
Okay, well, I'm Jen Sorensen, and you'll be seeing a lot of me this weekend, actually. I'm going to do a presentation on my experiences at the Democratic National Convention last week. That's going to be tomorrow afternoon. And then tonight, I'm in the Literary Death Match with several of my cartoonist pals. So you want to check that out later tonight.
Well, we won't see you tomorrow if you die tonight.
Well, that's true. That's why I've got to win. So
oh, man.
I need all the moral support I can get.
The schedule completely off.
So I guess before I start reading this one cartoon, I just want to say, I realize that a lot of jokes about Romney strapping various things to the top of his bus or his car or what have you have been made by now. But I was one of the first. I was one of the first dog on the roof jokesters. So without further ado, Romney straps worker to roof of campaign bus. Breaking. Mitt Romney was spotted hauling a blue-collar laborer on top of his campaign bus on the recent drive from New Hampshire to South Carolina. Romney says he wanted to bring an ordinary American with him on the campaign trail, but did not have room inside the vehicle. I have a large family, you know. It was either him or Tag. Somewhere in Pennsylvania, the worker reportedly soiled himself, and Romney responded, "Get me the bleep off of here. Don't worry, at Bain we specialized in hosing employees." Romney flatly denies accusations that he's hopelessly out of touch and heartless. That's just the politics of envy. Like so many complainers, this guy's getting a free ride. And this one's called A Taxing Day at the Polls. The name's Millicent Humbuckle. Do you have photo ID? No. Sorry, ma'am, no vote today. It appears you're in a different precinct now anyway. I live on Main Street. Where do I go? A new law says I don't have to tell you. Look on the bright side. Thanks to redistricting, your vote wouldn't matter anyway. But I haven't missed an election since 32. Sheesh, some people just can't take a hint. And I may be doing some work for a nonprofit soon that I can't talk about yet, but addressing this very issue about the voter ID laws, which are even more pernicious than you think. Once you start reading legal briefs on all the implications, it is something that frightens me a little bit about the 2012 elections. The Philopatarian Church is outraged that its hospitals and universities are required to insure employees' prostates. The prostate is the devil's gland. This is an attack on religious freedom. But many of their employees see things differently. I'm not a Philopatarian, I just work here. Are you sure my insurance won't cover a doctor visit for my cantaloupe-sized prostate? Satan! Pundits try to turn the dispute into an election year wedge issue. Why is Obama trying to ram prostates down the throats of the faithful? Obama holds a special Prostate of the Union address to defend the policy. When churches enter the public world of business, they have to follow the same rules as everybody else. That's what someone with a prostate would say. Turn off this filth. And speaking for myself, I'm very happy that my insurance now covers birth control pills. I just got to say, it's great. Oh, and this is a reader who actually made the Philopatarian bishop hat and sent me some pictures, which was really one of my proudest accomplishments as a cartoonist, was receiving this email. This just in response to President Obama's support for gay marriage, Mitt Romney has just announced his support for bully rights. I've had enough of this anti-bully rhetoric. It's time for bullies to come out of the closet and be accepted for who they are. They should no longer have to hide their true selves by pretending to forget that they tormented effeminate classmates, for example. To that end, I wholeheartedly encourage bully marriage. The more bullies marry bullies, of the opposite sex, of course, the more baby bullies there will be. Baby bullies? Do you want a swirly? And soon, Romney shows up at a bully pride parade. We're here, we're square, get used to it. And that's, of course, in reference to the little history that Romney had in college with that guy who had a ponytail, and, you heard about that. Making it with Mitt. Some advice for you all on how to become rich. Hi there. I'm Mitt Romney, and I'm a highly successful guy. You too can follow my inspiring all-American path if you don't listen to that Soviet-style cheese rationer Obama. You see, Obama wants to redistribute wealth. That is absolutely not what we did at my leveraged buyout firm. And we see the savings from the laid-off workers being sucked up to Bain Capital, going to the executives. We hoovered wealth. Very different. Obama also wants to punish effort. Why, in the 13 years since I've retired from Bain and continued to collect tens of millions, it's taken a lot of effort to keep track of it all. Yes, Obama opposes a merit-based society. How dare he think my sons don't merit their $100 million trust? And around the time I was drawing this cartoon, I noticed that Tag Romney had tweeted a photo of his dad as a pirate, as a corporate raider. Just, funny pic of my dad. Nothing wrong with that at all. RNC insiders discuss voter dissatisfaction with the Republican presidential candidates. What we need is Romney's 1% economics plus Santorum's church lady routine in an appealing package. But how? 2 months later. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce a new candidate genetically engineered from the DNA of Rick Santorum, Mitt Romney, Hank Williams Jr., and a woolly mammoth. Buck Hunter. TV ads are quickly released. I love lassoing up Occupy Wall Street protesters and using condoms for target practice. The GOP base is ecstatic. I could have a beer with Buck. I mean, he's some sort of mutant hybrid, but he's one of us. Next week, scandal. Buck made using stem cells. And here's a photo that I took earlier this year in a Boise, Idaho grocery store, which just kind of reminded me of this cartoon, you know. What could possibly go wrong? Notice the M16 barbecue lighter is behind the AK-47. 2012, a Mad Lib odyssey. Blank presidential candidate will commit a gaffe during a campaign stop at a deep-fried dessert eatery in Rust Belt State. Someone who refuses whipped cream on fried fudge is clearly out of touch with the people. Rabidly gay anti-political figure will be caught in a luxury automobile with a male escort named beloved TV action hero. I don't know how I wound up in that car, but I do know marriage equals one man and one woman. You will intimately get to know the life story of an Olympic athlete who was run over by a large farm implement at age 3 and overcame a harrowing addiction to animal tranquilizer to become a champion at sport you hadn't thought about since the last Olympics. And that really did happen when I watched the Olympics, something like that. After a brutal election cycle dominated by wildly inaccurate attack ads from shadowy super PAC, conventional wisdom spewer will declare the system worked. No problems here. Something that we can all look forward to very soon. And I guess, do I have time for one more? I think.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll read one more. RNC lowlights. Bold new policy positions. I want to talk to you about love. Dog whistles galore. To do the really big stuff, you need an American. Unlike, say, a black guy from Kenya. Strategic sadism. Step 1, ruthless obstruction of anything that might help the unemployed. Making Obama a one-term president is our top priority. Step 2, see, Obama couldn't help you. And you can't do a presentation these days without mentioning Clint. Legacy-destroying chairs. What's that? You say I just screwed the pooch? And when I was at the Democratic National Convention last week, all it took was the line, Clint Eastwood talking to a chair, to bring the whole room to its feet in laughter. So I'm going to milk that as long as I can. All right, well, that's all I have. And
Oops. Guess I'm up next.
The awesome Clay Bennett is up next.
Oh, that was great. Thank you. Oh, that was so good. Before I begin, I just want to point out that I have a very different approach to cartooning than either of my colleagues on this panel. Whereas Jen and Dan both, create these elaborate, these beautiful multi-panel cartoons that appeal to the intellect. I produce single-panel cartoons that really go for the gut. Although it's often said that less is more, I think many of my cartoons will prove that less is sometimes just less. Now, I'll let these two concentrate on quality. Today, my focus is quantity. With that in mind, I'm going to show you a lot of cartoons, but none will stay on the screen for more than 20 seconds, so please don't blink. Now, this has been a really, really long presidential election. I think proof of that is that when I was looking through my cartoons, the first time it showed up in my files was in late 2010, when folks were speculating about Sarah Palin actually entering the race. Now, it certainly sounded like she would enter when she said on Fox News that she had a fire in her belly to run for president. And that one is Sarah Palin admits to fire in the belly. Now, another candidate many expected to run in 2012 was Mike Huckabee. Huckabee seemed like a sure bet, to enter the race, especially when he went on this massive book signing tour in early 2011. Now, although neither would answer the call, both Palin and Huckabee seemed like naturals to represent the principle of the Tea Party wing that had sort of taken over the GOP. Now, eventually all the speculation would end as candidates started making their campaigns official. The first announcement came 17 months ago, and the candidate was Rick Santorum. Hop in, America. And now the next to announce his candidacy would be Ron Paul, bringing his own unique brand of libertarian politics to the race. And that one says, "Libertarians make bad lifeguards." Now, Ron Paul was followed by Newt Gingrich, which I was quite delighted by, who planned to center his campaign on his conservative family values. And that is marriage equals, you get the math. Now, after Newt came the announcement of Godfather pizza magnate Herman Cain. Now, I've always wondered why an African American would vote for a Republican, let alone run as one. It always seemed a bit like a black man sort of serving in the Confederacy. Now, following Cain would come the announcement of a candidate who had seemingly been running for president forever, Mitt Romney. It was just a matter of now picking up a tailwind. Now, the Tea Party base was very discontent with Mitt. However, other candidates wanted to jump into that lurch. Michelle Bachmann immediately jumped into the race after Mitt Romney. That one says, if God really did tell Bachmann to run, he must want Obama to win. Now, next was Tim Pawlenty and John Huntsman, both establishment Republicans, promoting their own versions of the tried and true trickle-down economics. So at this point, the field was pretty much set. But with so many candidates splitting the vote, nobody was really able to take a clear lead. That's when rootin' tootin' Texas governor Rick Perry saw his opening. So he jumped into the fray a couple of months later, and support for his candidacy skyrocketed. And this one, rich getting richer, poor getting poorer, and then dumb getting dumber. Oh, God. I'm sorry. With Perry joining what was already a crowded field of Republicans, one candidate seemed to be benefiting the most, and that was, under Barack Obama, our economy is struggling. Unemployment remains high, and we're deeper in debt. But all things considered, he's looking pretty good. Now, I don't think that this particular fact was lost on the GOP, even way back then. Why else would the party have been working so diligently to make registration rules more difficult and eligibility requirements more restrictive for voting? That was now. I guess their rationale is simple. If you can't put forth qualified candidates, your only option is to disqualify voters. And this guy's, come on, guys, it's not like I'm trying to vote. Now, Republicans will claim that these laws are a conscientious effort to combat in-person voter fraud. But that rationale sort of falls apart when you discover that in-person voter fraud is a virtually non-existent crime, and that the groups most likely affected by the new restrictions are those most likely to vote Democratic. And here's the depiction of that. But, that disturbing development aside, back on the campaign trail, August, we're up to now to August, saw the departure of Tim Pawlenty, whose political life was about the lifespan of a gnat. And in early November, it looked like it was a three-man race. The Tea Party was splitting its support behind Kaine and Gingrich, while establishment Republicans were literally banking on Romney. And the party in general seemed none too thrilled by the prospect. Of course, Herman Cain would be the next to leave the race. Ironically, it wasn't his cockamamie 999 economic program or his bigotry toward Muslims that did him in. Keep moving. No, it was his libido. Now, despite 4 women coming forward with allegations of sexual harassment, 2 of whom received cash settlements from the National Restaurant Association, Cain steadfastly denied any wrongdoing. Eventually, it would be the claims of the revelations of a 13-year extramarital affair with a 5th woman that would bring the Cain train, crashing to a halt. Now, of course, this was all good news for Newt. Newt Gingrich realized that Cain's loss would be his gain. So he abruptly discarded his more establishment Republican principles for those of the Tea Party. But abandoning the old for the new has always come easily for Newt. I know, it really didn't happen. It really didn't happen that way, Clay. But it's folklore. The only problem was that his rise in the polls would obviously draw the fire of Mitt's super PAC, resulting in a 3rd place finish in Iowa. Romney seemed to win, although days later we would find out that Rick Santorum actually won by a few dozen votes. The one result that was certain was that 6th place finish for Michelle Bachmann caused her to suspend her campaign. Romney would legitimately win the New Hampshire primary a few weeks later, knocking both John Huntsman and Rick Perry out of the race. And here's Rick Perry. At least we don't have to worry about brain damage. So it was down to pretty much 4 guys at this point. It was in South Carolina where Newt Gingrich's philandering past became a major campaign issue again. This one is the Family Values wedding ring. But it really didn't seem to matter to the voters of the Palmetto State. Regardless of his past indiscretions, it was pretty obvious to all concerned that Newt Gingrich only had one true love. So with Gingrich winning in Carolina, the primary in Florida loomed large and was a terribly ugly affair, as the Republican race had seemingly come down to one of 2 choices. It was in Florida where super PAC superiority really became established and where Mitt Romney pulled out to a clear lead. So he never really looked back after that point. I mean, yeah, Santorum made some noise and picked up a little support along the way with his unflinching commitment to both the culture war and sweater vests. Here it is. But at the end of the day, it seemed like Republican voters were more receptive to Romney's war on the recession than Rick Santorum's war on Satan. And this one, the girl saying, "I distinctly asked for an economist." So now we're up to about April, and Mitt Romney's nomination seemed all but certain. So Rick Santorum did eventually suspend his campaign. Soon after that, Newt Gingrich, devoid of money and supporters, called it quits himself. Therefore, I am suspending my campaign for the presidency. But Callista's still there. Now, technically, at this point, Ron Paul was still in the race, but nobody really seemed to notice. So with the exit of Gingrich, only one real viable candidate remained. A plastic flower doesn't wilt. Now, make no mistake about it, Mitt Romney is not the perfect candidate. He's not the GOP's dream candidate. He definitely isn't what the Tea Party wanted, but it certainly wouldn't be the first time that their support sort of defied logic. And although Romney is the quintessential fat cat, and that would appeal to establishment Republicans, he doesn't come without some political baggage. And there's Romney's support among women is terribly weak. I miss my old gynecologist. And his popularity among Latinos it seems to be even worse. There's Join Latinos for Romney, proof of citizenship required. All in all, Mitt Romney is just not very likable and seems completely incapable of relating to average people. Why don't you peons like me? So confronted with the inherent weaknesses of their candidate, expect the Republicans to try their best to make this election a referendum solely on President Obama. You're not much of a lifeguard. The president is a nice guy, they'll tell you, but he's just in over his head. Now, the Republicans will attack Obama on his record, and then they'll cry foul when he fights back. And, of course, they'll have plenty of help from the anonymous donations to the unregulated super PACs supporting their party. Here's the tag team. And they'll also benefit from the new rules governing voting. But despite their best efforts to make this decision solely about Barack Obama, all elections eventually come down to a choice between two candidates and how each of them would use the presidency. You're going to love dressage. Look, I'll be the first to admit, at times the president and the Democrats in Congress can seem, a bit disorganized. But eventually, when it comes down to a choice between a party with good intentions and bad discipline, or a party that has just the opposite, I will choose Dudley Do-Right over Snidely Whiplash every single time. Thank you very much.
Very good.
So it's been, I think this presidential campaign season started, I think Nixon was still in office, honestly. It has been a very long one. But this is and we are, this is the cartooning from the left panel, but the other thing is that there was no Democratic primary this time around, so I think most of all of these cartoons focus on Republicans. Newt Gingrich could not be any more repellent if he were literally exposed as an oozing reptilian creature bent on global domination. Pathetic humans, how can you even begin to comprehend my superior intellect when your puny brains are little more than useless appendages, though admittedly very tasty? And there's Rick Santorum, who was at the time trying to topple Newt from the throne. It's just very weird to think back that there was a moment when Newt was on top. There was a moment when Rick Santorum, how did any of that happen? Collective insanity. Yeah. Of course, if he were, he'd just blame the media. Speaker Gingrich, many Americans were startled to learn that you are actually some sort of lizard man with a taste for human brains. How do you respond? I'm shocked that the liberal media would stoop so low when there are so many brains to be harvested. So many issues to be addressed. His diehard supporters would overlook it all in any case. I mean, sure, he's a hideous brain-eating monster, but at least he won't be a food stamp president. If you know what we mean, we think you do. And then there's Mitt Romney, who could not be any less convincing as an ordinary guy if he literally wore a top hat and a monocle. What ho, I believe I'll pour an appropriate amount of this granulated soap product into the automated clothes washing device, just as I do every week. Pip pip, cheerio. And this is a joke, but the Romney administration, the Romney campaign, God help us, the Romney campaign actually released a photo at some point of Mitt Romney standing very awkwardly in front of a washing machine, trying to convince us that he actually does his own laundry while he's out on the campaign trail, which I find unconvincing. Hey, young people, it's time for another episode of Sex Talk with Rick Santorum. Today's frank topic, the evil of contraception. I had fun designing that title panel. You boys and girls will soon begin to experience strange new feelings you may not entirely understand. And then when you are old enough, you will get married and have procreative sex. This is entirely natural. He skips over a few stages there. What's not natural is to interfere with God's divine plan through the use of secular birth control methods. If God wanted you to use birth control, he'd write you a prescription himself. Which is not to say sex can't be pleasurable. Why, the average woman of childbearing age should be able to enjoy procreative sex anywhere from 5 to 10 times over the course of her lifetime. That gets a little response from the girl there. But listen carefully, boys and girls. The important thing to remember is that procreative sex is a deeply personal and profoundly intimate matter between a husband and a wife and the United States Congress and the celibate hierarchy of the Catholic Church, and also Republican presidential candidates, except Gingrich. Seriously, do not listen to that guy. Next time, masturbation is murder, and please don't Google me. Our top story tonight, a giant unstoppable asteroid is plummeting toward our planet. As we face the certain extinction of all life on Earth, the question on everyone's mind is, how will this affect the 2012 presidential race? I'm very concerned about the destruction of this planet. I know many of its owners. And Santorum says, repent and vote for me, and Gingrich says, I'm in it till the end, literally. We turn now for expert analysis from our resident expert guys. No question about it, this is going to hurt Obama in the polls. It's like a 1-2 punch for the average American worker. First rising gas prices, now the obliteration of all they know and love. So does the prospect of impending planetary doom mean that the GOP will finally rally around Romney? Oh, it would take more than that. They really don't like that guy. But the certainty of imminent annihilation could suppress the youth vote in the general election, in which case the destruction of the planet would be good news for Republicans, at least until, the destruction of the planet. All right, gentlemen, thank you for your insight. Coming up next, what does the end of the world mean for your stock portfolio, and how are your favorite celebrities coping with the stress? First, these messages. So I wanted to put one in here. This actually has nothing to do with the campaign, but as I say, since we've all been focusing on the Republicans the whole time, I just wanted to throw in one to point out that the view from the left does not mean always cheerleading everything the Obama administration does. Hey kids, you already know how a bill becomes a law. Now let's take a look at how a secret memo justifies a kill list. First, the Office of Legal Counsel drafts me a memo providing the legal rationale for something the president wants, like an extrajudicial program of targeted assassination. So can I read you? Of course not. I'm secret. Next, they send me over to the White House, and well, that's pretty much it. The president uses the authority provided by me to create my cousin here, the kill list. Look out, probable bad guys. My justice is swift and unilateral. But what about due process? Excellent question. This is a government of laws, not men. And we believe the requirement of due process, when applicable, are satisfied through internal deliberations within the executive branch. Those other branches of government would just be in the way. I'm sorry to say that's the actual rationale provided by an unnamed administration spokesperson to the New York Times. Okay, but what if you kill an innocent person? Not to worry, we're very careful to avoid civilian casualties by labeling any military-age male in the strike zone a combatant. Problem solved. And that, my boy, is how a secret memo is used to justify an executive kill list. Excuse me, what about checks and balances? Oh, God, not you again. Can't you take a hint, old-timer? Some pieces of paper don't know when to quit. Mitt has a lot of things that he can't talk about. He can't mention his record as governor. Massachusetts, you say? Sounds vaguely familiar, but I do not know this Romney care of which you speak. He's afraid his religion will alienate fundamentalist voters. Let's just say I'm a man of faith and quickly change the subject. Hey, look over there, it's an Obama tax hike. He clearly doesn't believe in financial transparency. Call me old-fashioned, but I happen to believe the methods by which an incomprehensibly wealthy presidential candidate avoids taxes are nobody's business but his own. It's a matter of principle. And his time at Bain is obviously a problem. I am qualified to be president because of my business experience, which it is unconscionable of my opponent to bring up. Have you no sense of decency, sir? Mitt Romney, desperately in search of something he can talk about. Vote for me because I like puppies? And as Sparky jumps up because I needed somebody to say this line. Is that why you tied your dog to the roof of the car? No, I meant kittens! Kittens! It's time to check in on Parallel Earth, a world like ours, yet strangely divergent. Their Republican presidential candidate won't release his taxes or reveal his name. You may call me the nominee. Their election laws are somewhat different from ours. Nor does he discuss anything else about himself. Parallel Americans should vote for me because I have business experience. Can you tell us more? And give my opponent something to use against me? For Pete's sake, no way! Parallel Harry Reid tries to provoke a response. I'm told by a well-placed source that he owns a car elevator and likes to fire people, whoever he is. But internet fact-checkers are on the case. Since there is no way to ascertain the identity of the nominee, we rate Senator Reid's statement super-duper false. We give it 5 floppy penises. And as it explains on the bottom, the Pinocchio story is also slightly different on Parallel Earth. The whole, we give it 5 Pinocchios, we give it pants on fire, whatever, these things, I find these things very, very silly. It's very condescending, honestly. Next, the nominee tries to change the subject. I'm pleased to announce and this happened because I was cartooning in real time because the Ryan was announced after I had finished the cartoon, so I had to go back and rewrite the final panel. Pleased to announce my vice presidential nominee. Collectivists, prepare to meet your doom. And then at the bottom, it says Ixnay on the Ein A and Ray. Oh, right, sorry. Speaking of Ayn Rand, welcome to the ticket, son. I'm sure your bold ideas will really help fire up the base and help distract attention from my tax returns. Who's your slightly translucent friend? Well, this is the ghost of Ayn Rand. I know your staff told me to distance myself, but I haven't been able to shake her. Shake me, you collectivist pawn. You are unworthy of my imparted wisdom. But what should I have expected from a weak-willed God-believer who uses Social Security survivor benefits to pay for college like any common undeserving moocher? Hey, you took Social Security and Medicare when you got sick. Don't change the subject, moocher. I spent a lot of time reading about Ayn Rand when I did to get it right when I did this. Look, I want to cut taxes for the wealthy. I want to slash social welfare programs. I want to liberate self-reliant achievers from the demands of the weak and parasitical. I want to shape society after your vision. Bah, you disgust me. You oppose abortion and therefore the rights of the individual. You're just another contemptible closet statist like Ronald Reagan. I urged my followers not to vote for him, you know. I despise your kind with rational objectivity. Real ray of sunshine you got there. You say you two are inseparable? Yeah, but mostly people don't seem to notice. They're lost, the weak-minded fools. And next, the ghost of St. Thomas Aquinas. You know nothing of my work. Doh! I was just trying to indicate that Ayn Rand is someone that sticks with Ryan, whether he wants to admit it right now or not. If you know the history, he's got I mean, basically he praised her extensively in his crazy youth, which was, in other words, 2 weeks before he got the nomination. But he's been trying to deflect attention by invoking St. Thomas Aquinas, and who actually I cannot remember the specific quotes, but was somewhat more concerned with
Rand impersonation. Actually.
Anyway, the invaders, strange visitors from a distant barren planet. We must replenish our population, or our species is doomed. Fortunately, our scans indicate the females of Earth will make excellent breeding stock. Okay then, plot us a course. I already have, sir. They have a devious plan. We will infiltrate their political system and abolish the so-called right to terminate unwanted pregnancies. And then we activate the remote mass impregnation device and invade the uteruses of planet Earth. The word uterus is just not often used in plural, and I was not sure. Uteruses is technically right, but it sort of seems like it should be uteri. It just doesn't come up a lot in conversation. At least, I don't know, my life, I don't know. Things proceed smoothly until the invader known as Todd Aiken says too much. It's my understanding that human females do not become pregnant through legitimate rape, though I am admittedly not a xenobiologist. Say what? The alien collective begs him to sacrifice himself for the greater good. You fool! You must voluntarily self-discorporate, or you will expose us all. Relax, the humans will forget all about it within 1 or 2 of their news cycles. Sean Hannity, there was a deadline for dropping out, and with literally an hour to go on the clock, Sean Hannity made more of a fool of himself on the radio than I have ever heard before, and that's saying quite a lot. But he was just literally begging the man to drop out of the race. Failing that, they tried to distance themselves from their former comrade. We disapprove of the forced impregnation of human females, don't we, Paul Ryan? Yes, we definitely do not view Earthwomen as disposable breeding stock. Nevertheless, some humans begin to suspect something is amiss. Republicans are panicking about this. They must realize their extremist views will alienate voters. Yeah, I'm sure that's it. What other explanation could there be? I'm not going to read this whole thing, but this was what I did for the Republican convention. I've gone to a lot of conventions over the years, and this year, like Steve Brodner earlier, I decided that I would cover this one from the comfort of my easy chair at home, watching C-SPAN, and that was actually, I've been to a lot of conventions, and I think I was actually better informed watching it on C-SPAN, but I got in my, there's the hologram Reagan joke at the bottom, where that rumor was floating around that they were actually going to bring in a projected Reagan like they did with Tupac at the concert a while back. And what it says at the bottom was that this was really, Romney was just the man who could not get a break that week. He had just spent a week with Todd Aiken dominating the news cycle, and then the party that doesn't believe in global warming had to delay part of their convention because of a threatened hurricane. And then, to top it all off, the thing that everyone remembers from that convention is an old man shouting at a chair. And when Romney, if anyone watches Doctor Who, there are these really creepy aliens called the Silents that you forget they're in the room the minute you look away from them, which was kind of how I felt about Mitt Romney's speech. So I have the Silents forgetting that he's talking the minute they look away from him. That is everything that I've got here.
No, okay, that's it from the view from the left. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Clay, Dan, Jen.